Okay, let's redo the section from last night when I lost connection, but 3.1 is really short, so it's not a big deal. So this is the first question in your homework. If in all honesty, I was going to skip this section, but I'm going to go ahead and upload it since we've already talked a lot about quadratics. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about it one more time. So part A, does the parabola open up or down? You can clearly see it's going downward, right? No big deal. Find the intercepts. Now, these can be seen here as your two x-intercepts and one y-intercept. So you would just write those down. But you're just going to write the x values and not the points. If they say coordinates, then you write coordinates. Okay, so no big deal. Now, axis of symmetry is always going to be the vertex, the x value of your vertex. So I would find the vertex first, which is going to be the peak, 2 comma 9. And go ahead and solve this so you can see it. 2 comma 9 is the answer for the vertex, which x equal to 2 is the equation for the axis of symmetry. So you get pretty much C and D at the same time. Intercepts, we can see them on the graph right there. Nothing crazy, right? If you have the graph, you should be able to pull off all this information. All right, let's go to the next one. Number two, here I'm going to open up the solution explanation so we can have some backup here. So if you're given this form, they want us to plot 5 points. So like, that's kind of annoying. We might have to do it on paper or maybe use their little t-table here. So basically, we have the vertex, right? We can see it right here. Let me adjust my camera here. Oops. Where did my thing go? Hmm. That's annoying. There you go. Ah, alrighty. Sorry about that. All right, so vertex is right there. Remember, it's always the opposite of what's in here. So if you have a -2, then you're gonna write 2, comma, whatever this number is, 1. That's how they're gonna get their vertex here. Okay, so that's how you find it. Now, finding the vertex in 1 point is usually enough for the grapher, but they want us to do 5 points. So I'm like, okay, well, do you pick any number you want? It doesn't matter. Just we can't pick anything too big. So the idea is pick 2 points around the vertex. That way it doesn't get too away from the graph. Because when you start actually plotting it on here, if you get too far away, it shoots up real quick. You see how if you plug in 4, you're already about to get out of the grid. So what they recommend is find the vertex, which we just did, right? And pick 2 points, right? Below and above. That's all. So you just plug them into this X. Plug in 0, see what happens. You get 0 minus 2. squared, which is 4, times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So just write that out, right? You can show more steps if you like. Or punch this into your calculator, you could just get this equal to 13. So plug in the x that you choose, plug in the x that you choose, and get an output. That's where these come from. So just like we've done before, plug in a number, find your y. Plug in your x, find your output. Okay. Once you have your 5 points, you'll just plot them. But that's pretty much it, really. Let's go another question here. Now, this one, let's see here. This one we don't have it in. I think it's called not standard form, but excuse me. One second. Let's see. Trying to make room. That desk is an S. That's better. Okay, so the probability of this form here, x squared plus bx plus c, we want it in the other form because you can just pull a vertex off it like we did before, but you can also use this formula right here. So this is pretty cool. So you can find the x value for the vertex right away. So I would write this formula down. Or I'll write it on paper so you can see what I'm talking about. And then once you have that, just plug in points. So this one I'm going to go ahead and work out so you can see it. Let me get the other camera going here. Too many cameras. There we go. All right, so this is number 3, I think, in the homework. Yeah, number 3. So it's chapter 3.1, number 3. This pen's dying on me. Just graph this guy. I don't like to spend too much time on graphing since we have all these graphing utilities, but we should be able to get information like vertex, that type of stuff. So this is the vertex formula. So vertex is going to be, we'll call it HK, 2 points. H will be equal to negative B over 2A. Okay. The K will be equal to the function or this guy at this point. So you'll plug in, I'm going to go ahead and call this F just so they can use the right notation. Okay. So F of H, which is equal to the Y value, F of negative B over 2A, this equals the Y value for vertex. This is X value. Okay. So remember the general form, right? Y equals to AX squared plus BX plus C. So our A is -1, our B is 6, and our C is -10. Although I don't need the C in this case, but it's right there. All right, so plug it in. The H will be -6 over 2 times -1, which is -6 divided by -2, which is a 3. Now plug in the 3. F of 3 will be -3 squared plus 6 times 3 minus 10. So that's when you get their -1 right here. So the vertex is 3 comma -1. So at that point, just pick a few points to the right and left. 2 points, I think they said. Yeah, 2 points. Then you'll have 5 points. So here's my x value. Here's my f of x, or the y value that they call it. That's going to be, let's see, so 2 below, 2 above. That'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right there. So f of 1 is equal to -1 squared plus 6 times 1 minus 10. This will be f of 2 that'd be -2 squared plus 6 times 2 minus 10. What is that going to give us? The 3, we already have this point. We said f of 3 was -1. We did it. F of 4, F of 5. I'm just going to go ahead and skip it and use the calculator because I think you get the point, right? Plug in the numbers, plug in the x values, and see what y values you get. That's all. So for this, we're going to get -5, -2. 4, we're going to get another -2 and -5. So I'm going to skip this minor step here. So then you would just plot these points. So you're going to get, when I plug in 1, I get a -5. When I plug in 2, I get a -2. When I plug in 3, I get -1. Plug in 4, I get, oops, -2. Kind of low. Let me put that down here. We're not low enough. And then 5, I get -5. Anyway, so you would plot those 5 points. You start with the vertex and then plot 5 around it, and then that'll be it. Now, let's move on to another question. All right, let's do number 6. This is a little different. So the first 4 or 5 questions are just graph, give me some information. Number 6, they want you to change it from the general form to standard form, or this form to the vertex form. So part A wants you to change it, which requires you to complete the square. So if they actually force you to do it, then you can't use the formula to skip this step. I mean, you can still find the vertex, but you can't give them the form that they want. So what I recommend is just to complete the square. Now, when there's a negative on the x squared, it's a little harder, but this is the general rule, right? So what you do, you want to factor a -2 out of the first 2 terms. So always factor the number in front of the x squared and get it out of the way. You're going to work inside here. When you factor negative, all the signs switch. Yeah, like that. Now I'm going to leave a little blank just to make, for emphasis. You don't have to do this, but basically I'm adding something in here, something special. And then I gotta do the same thing over here. Okay. So remember we said to complete the square, you look at the b term, right? So we do the b term is -8. Half the b is -4. And if I square this, this will be the magical number that I'm going to add to both sides. But this is where it gets a little weird because if you square -4, you get 16. So that's fine. So that's what I'm going to add right here. Okay, to complete the square inside. But notice that it's not really a 16 that I'm adding, right? Because what is -2 times 16? That's the true number that I'm adding. So it's really a 32. So I am actually subtracting 32 because that's 16 times -2 is -32. So to undo what I just did, I'd have to add 32 here. So this 32 would cancel with this -32 that would come out if I were to multiply it out. So I need to keep balance because I don't have two sides of an equation. I can't add 16 on both sides or 32. So I have to, in a sense, undo what I just did all in one side. So if I do +2, -2 right away, because that means I didn't do anything. But I did this, added this special number so I can complete the square. So that I'm going to transform this part. I'm going to basically manipulate this and complete the square. So this becomes, right, once you can now factor it into x minus 4 squared. -37 plus 32, that is a -5. That's it. Now it's in that form. So that'll be your first part. They're going to want this equation here and then give them the vertex. So this is the vertex form or maybe standard form. The vertex can be seen now that it's in that form, right? It's going to be 4 opposite whatever's in there and then -5 right there. So once you have that, you're going to do the same thing we did before. All right, I'm not gonna do it this time, but I'll set it up for you. Basically, I give you the answer though. I'll use the Y notation or F, it doesn't matter. Plug in two numbers below, so 2, 3, 4. Two numbers above the vertex 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so I'm gonna use the Y just so you know. Well, actually, both at the same time, because it is the same. So F of 2, right? That'll be -13. F of 3, that'll be -7. This is the XY points. F of 4, we just did that. -5. We knew that answer. F of 5, -7. I'm just gonna give it, like I said, I'm just giving the answers. You would have to plug this in and then put in your calculator to get these pieces. So the points that you're gonna graph would be 2, -13, 3, -7, 4, -5, 5, -7, 6, -13. All right. Anyway, just plot those 5 points and you'll be good. Let's move on. Okay. So this one's pretty easy, so we're not going to work it out on paper. So if they ask you about maximum and minimums, remember that just means the vertex. I mean, it's always going to happen at a vertex. So if the parabola's opening down, like a upside down U, then you have a max because you have a peak, right? And if it is opening down like this, you have a peak somewhere. It's opening up, you have a valley or a minimum. So since this is a negative, it's opening down, so it will have a max. If it was positive, it would have a minimum. Now, what is the minimum or maximum value? Well, you would just use your vertex formula to find it. Let me go ahead and show you right here. Let's look at the explanation here. Oh, there it is. So check it out. Using the formula x equal to negative b over 2a, you can find the x value, which is the vertex value, or the x value for the vertex. Plug that in, right, to y, and you'll have the y value. Plug it into the function. Since it's opening down, you have your minimum right here, or maximum, sorry. That's it. So as if it's opening down, you have a max, and there's the point. So if it's in standard form, you can just write it down. If if it's not, you use this formula right here, and you'll be good, just like we did before. So it's really the same thing they're asking when we were graphing. We did the vertex stuff, we graphed it, put it in standard form, but we don't have to use the completing the square stuff because we can use the formula and skip that. So if they're not asking for the actual equation, they just want the answer, then I would use this to save time. But anyway, that's pretty much it, really. See, here's the answers. Does a function have minimum or maximum? You say max because it's opening down. What is a function's minimum or maximum value? Well, the y value is the actual highest point, right, on your y. So you'd say -4. Where does it happen? You would say it would be the x value. So if when you plug in 5, I get a max value of -4. So that's what you should think about it. All right, let's go to a different one. Different question. Okay. So this is the exact same question we just did. It's just that now they're applying it to something. Like, see, they're saying, hey, I throw a ball in the air. After t seconds, the height is this equation here. This equation right there. What is the maximum height that the ball will reach? Okay. So basically they're asking max or min stuff, which means they're just gonna find the vertex again. That's it. So plug in again the same formula. Negative b over 2a, that's 112 or 2 times -16. You get your values. It's the exact same thing we just did, right? Just plug it in. Once you have that, plug in that 3.5, the time, and then you'll know where it happened. So you find the t, which is the x, plug in that value, and you get the output, which is usually the y. And in this case, t is time, and h of t is the height. So instead of making that all difficult, just remember you want to know what the peak is because that's when the ball goes all the way up. That happens at a vertex. Use your vertex formula and do the exact same thing we've been doing. Find the vertex. All right. Anyway, let's move on to a different section. I think quadratic stuff is we've really talked about that way too much already.